Alright, ready when you are.
Okay. Thank you guys, everyone, for coming today. It's great to see such a great turnout. So just the purpose of this workshop is to introduce, the T1 War of the World community to the GVG and open field fights playstyle. Uh, Now, that's not to say that it's exclusive to just Tier 1. We've invited people from every single tier in War of the World to come and uh, get some information from some of the best drivers in this game, drivers and players alike. Everyone here that's been selected for the panel has made numerous contributions to the GVG game type, and that's why they have chosen to be part of this panel today. So hopefully this will be the first of many workshops and other things that we can do to build the GVG community. This is just the first step, so definitely be on the lookout for other events that we'll be hosting down the year. So we had a few difficulties with getting some people. So if you recognize some names that weren't on the panel, we just have people filling in. So we're gonna start with some introductions by each of the drivers and players on the panel. So let's start with Diviniya. Diviniya, how did you get started? What's the history of your current and past guilds? And how did you get to be as successful as you are today?
Hello everyone, and thanks for the invite to speak on this. So my guild was about a year old now. We're born and formed in Maguma. I was making the guild after a friend of mine from Myrmidon Elite, Rekka, some of you might have known him from Second Law, left our prior guild and went to Second Law, so most of the players on my guild currently had no guild to world reward with. So I decided to form a GVG team from some players from that guild and a couple other handful of players from Maguma. And then we just started GVGing and got pretty good. That's my story.
Cool. Enigma, so same question. How did you get started? What's the history of your current and past guilds? And how did you get to be as successful as you are today?
Hello, nice to meet you, and thank you for the invitation. Uh, my main class is Mesmer, so I started with a guild you might know as VCY. I started from the bottom, and I just started practicing a lot of Mesmer. And my first chance came when I met VoTF in open field, when they completely annihilated us. So I was really interested by them, and I joined them. I made my application, of course. They did trials and everything. So at the start, I felt like I was really bad to join them and I wanted to improve so much. I had this drive in me, so I began to duo every day. And in due time, I became one of the best mesmerists in the game. And from there, like the hard work that VOTF put into the game to make it a really entertaining adventure is what kept me going, as it pushed me to 7th and then into creating my own guild, which is like right now.
Great.
And yeah, that's pretty much my story.
Thank you. All right, Rod, how did you get started? What's the history of your current past guilds? And how did you get to be as successful as you are today?
I started out with the MP in Tier 1. After JVG and VOTF and stuff, we, like 5 of my friends from EMP decided to make NS when we moved to Dragon Brand. And I played Guardian. We did a lot of small scale stuff, so I think that's what helped build our core a lot. That's pretty much it. We just kept growing after that.
How about let's keep it in guild. Indy, same question. How did you get started? What's the history of your current and past guilds, and how did you get to be as successful as you are today?
Well, I started with Strike Force. Played a little bit during NA with Strike Force,
Is that right?
and then yeah, that's right, Rod. You started with an MP, so that's all good. Um, yeah, so I started with Strike Force, and then I moved to TKG, playing like because I'm an Aussie, so I was playing in the Aussie time zone, and there wasn't really much to GVG in the Oceanic and Sea time zone, like when I was there, and we did GVG a bit there. And it kind of got to the point where I wanted to, sort of, try and go to that next level where all the competition was, and that was in NA. And then so left TKG, and then we started up NS again in January, and sort of haven't really looked back, and just been sort of, pushing our GVGs as far as we can in NA time zone. And yeah, I'm from Australia, not New Zealand. Yeah, that's kind of it.
Alright, cool. Gismor, so same question.
All right, sorry. Well, I formed up my guild EK with a bunch of, about 5 friends. Then we moved on Blackgate, tried recruiting there, failed that. Moved to Crystal Desert, and that's where we started getting into Zerg busting and whatnot. And we started trying to do some GVG stuff once we ran into aggression a few times and getting shit on quite a bit. And then later moved on to back to Blackgate, and Sea of Stars is where we really started doing a lot of GVG stuff. About the story of my life there.
Cool. And last but not least, Jericho. Same question.
Okay,
Yeah.
so started with a small crew. About only 4 of them are still with us now. We weeded out the retards slowly. I think when we first started GVG was when Redguard fought VoTF. That video was pretty epic, the first time we saw it. And then that's when we started working on our GVG and shit. And that's pretty much it.
Okay. How did you get started as a driver?
As a driver?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. It seemed pretty similar to RuneScape driving. Not gonna lie. Fucking RuneScape.
Okay. Alright, so just so everyone knows, what we're hoping to have today is a roundtable discussion. We're gonna start topics with a question, and then hopefully it will, everyone here will bounce it off, have a discussion based on that topic that we bring forth. So the first question that I'm gonna ask the panel is, depending on, we have a good mix of people who, they've made their own guilds or they've joined existing guilds. So how do you guys go about recruitment, both as a new guild that's just starting out, maybe when you first started out, or how do you go about recruitment as an established guild? Why don't we start with Enigma? Why don't you start off?
Well, as a new established guild, I would just recommend to pick just 20 players and see where you go. And from there, I would just advise you to work on your weak links. For example, let's say you get a good melee chain, but your LEs suck. Then you need to work on your LEs, switch them, replace them, do whatever you can, and just just fix your issue one by one, not everything at the same time. As for an established guild, I would really advise that you have some kind of a priority, as in, let's say you're looking for really good players, so you should go into SPVP and look for your players there and see if they're interested in War v World. So if they're interested in War v World, that means that you can get best of both worlds, really good micro from the players, which is probably the most important thing this game has come to be honest, especially in GVG, since the level is so high right now. And yeah, that's pretty much what I think, about this.
How about Indy? How do you go about recruiting and new guild versus established guild?
Well, when we started up again in January, like we needed to, like, because we started up in tier one, and we sort of trying to rebuild from there. So we basically we talked to people who we knew from other guilds that had people that were in guilds that kind of that had GVG'd in the past that were kind of broken apart and looking for people that way. But it's like one of the biggest ways we recruit is like kind of through word of mouth, through people saying that there's person X is available, and it's very difficult, like because we raid so often as well as GVG, we need to find people that fit in with the guild as well as like it's not just for us. It's not just 100% on ability. Like they have to fit in, and so they're going to synergize with the team. It's like it's very important because the amount of time that you have to put in for this stuff, or the amount of time that we put in, very important that everyone gets along. But like at this stage of the game, it's incredibly difficult to recruit, I think, because so many of the strong players are already in a like in a GVG guild, and it's very difficult when your roster is like when your roster's kind when you're only needing like one or two players to really sort of solidify your roster. It can be very difficult to find them. They're like diamonds in the rough. But it's something that it's worth putting the time in. You've got to put the time in looking for people, and but like I won't lie, like it's not easy. I don't think to recruit people at this stage of the game.
And to add to that, when we remade NS, we started off in JQ, and everyone knows JQ. Sorry, but you guys have like the worst pugs, and it was really hard to recruit from tier 1. But one thing that helped us a lot, and like just the people who follow you every day that weren't in the guild, and you notice them surviving. I think we recruited a lot of good gems that way. I don't know if you guys know Sag. He started off with us in JQ. We thought he was a good warrior that followed us every day, but we found out he ran like indoor pain. But he ended up being one of our best warriors, and he's still with us today. And he had no intentions of applying. We kind of just talked him into it. So like keep an eye out of the people who follow you and who are surviving.
All right. Diviniya. So same question. How do you go about recruitment when you started out and now as an established guild?
Starting out and then being established are very, very different. Back when we started, we got almost all of our players from Maguma. It was pretty much players I knew or friends of players that I knew that people could vouch for and were solid players, and this is how we formed the core of our guild. It's almost when you're forming a new guild, it's almost all got to be on server. Nobody's gonna hop servers to join your guild for a like startup GVG guild. Like that's gonna be really tough. And from our experience, once we got a core formed, once we set up how we wanted to recruit, what our goals were, and we started fighting guilds as much as we could, and then start putting out videos and winning GVGs, and then at that point recruiting like off server was pretty easy for quite a while. Like Indy said, it's pretty difficult to recruit good players at this point in the game because they're all in good guilds. So you have to focus on the people who are dedicated and show up daily and who are willing to improve, and then you can really shape them into really good players. So almost at this point in the game, you're not looking for the raw skill right away. You're looking for people who are willing to dedicate the time into getting better.
So would you say, even if they're not necessarily, what you're looking for, if they have the motivation, it's worth it to train them?
Yeah, oh, definitely. One of the best warriors we ever picked up. He applied to us, and he had like world v world rank of like level 5, and he said it should not fool him. He said should not fool us into he's a bad player or something, and he didn't really know a whole lot about the game. And then within a week, he was like one of the best shot warriors we've ever had. But he just up and disappeared one day. So rest in peace.
Okay. Gismor, so same question. How do you go about recruitment, both as a new guild and then an established GVG guild?
Going about recruitment as a new guild is a pain in the ass, especially if you're trying to get into the GVG stuff, because like Diviniya and Indy and everybody else has said, all the good GVG players are already in established guilds. And if you're kind of like a no-name, it's hard to get like people into your guild. So what I did was I pug commanded every time because we had to move servers a bunch, so every time we moved servers I would pug man to recruit some people and then kick out the scrubs, rinse and repeat. And like Diviniya also said, is that you may get a bunch of people who are pretty bad players, but they have the energy, the motivation to want to be there, and so you can work with them to improve. And that's what I wound up doing with a bunch of my guys. Because when we were, especially with our melee train, because that's what we got down the best in our guild was our melee train, and we made it pretty powerful. And it was pretty shitty when we first started doing it, but it's just you got to work with everybody and go through a bunch of training and shit. But with an established guild, once you make a name for yourself, it's easy. You can get, like Diviniya and everybody else has said, you can get recruitments, applications in from cross servers or even on your own server more often.
Okay, cool. Jericho, same question.
Well, recruiting was never really an issue for us. People just came in, and usually I would look at probably 1% of the applications that we got, and then either, one of the officers would tell me, hey, this guy's bad, I'm going to decline him. I'd be like, all right, dude, I don't even care. So it wasn't until, unless they were referred personally by a member already in our guild, where we would consider them. And these trials, I would treat them, I would be the biggest asshole to the trials as, the biggest asshole I can to see if they're little bitches or if they can handle taking some shit. Because personally, I don't want people that, break down emotionally really easy during a fight, especially when we're losing. That's how we did it, pretty much.
Okay. Parver, same question. How do you go about recruitment, both as a new guild and one that's established?
He might be AFK.
Oh no, he said his microphone's broken.
Oh no. Oh.
I just wanna add, if you're a new guild and you look to build a new guild, like from nothing, you should definitely go to a Gold League server, like from the top, so that you can have a lot of choice in people.
So it seems like a lot of general consensus is that you want to look to the populations on your server, and don't be afraid to train people that are not necessarily, what you want. Would that be a fair assessment of what everyone said?
Definitely.
Yep.
Cool. All right, so second question. Can you guys talk about group composition? How do you assess your strengths and weaknesses? How do you play to your strengths? How do you create a comp that makes sure your weakness is, not that vulnerable, whatever you may be weak at? Let's start with Jericho.
Okay, the composition. We used to really just kind of like mimic Redguard and VoTF at the start, to be honest. It wasn't until about a year ago when we started doing our own thing, after we lost to EP. We tried the gang squad, it wasn't really working for us, so that would be our weakness. The way we covered up that weakness was with Necros. We just threw 4 Necros at it, and anytime a ganker would try to go after our casters, Necros would just single target on the gankers and they would die easily. Also, Another weakness we had was we didn't have any sustain. We were all just damage. Everybody in our composition was pure damage, pure damage, pure damage. So the way to fix that was just drop the biggest bomb we could in the first engage or second engage and try to like put down 2 or 3 people. And it seemed to be working for a very long time. Actually, it worked for the whole time, to be honest. Did I miss anything?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Wax piece of shit.
Haru, did you want to ask
yeah.
me the same question?
Which one? The first question?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. So Parver, how do you go about recruitment, both as a new guild and also as an established GVG guild?
Well, unlike the other drivers or guild leaders in this panel, I was never really the guild leader of any of the guilds I was previously in. I was just sort of, how do you want to put it, someone who held it together because there was nothing to hold it together at the current time. But when times were rough, when I had to recruit players, it depends on whether or not you want to keep a healthy raid, or it really depends what you're trying to go for. And at the time, and obviously it's different for situations, but for EP, since that's most recent, it was to the point where we just needed people. Otherwise, EP would have died sooner. So what I had to do was I had to lower the standards for members to actually join, and that allowed us to finally get members in, and we had to actually train those guys, or do our best with them, rather, and work with them just to keep a healthy raid. But like what I think it was Div and the others, Gismor, what they said was, a lot of the good players now, a lot of the players that each guild wants, everyone wants that good guardian, everyone wants that good warrior, Ellie. They're all in guilds now. They're all in, ARC. They're all in S. They're all in Ag before they disbanded. So it's really hard to get those kind of players that everyone's looking for. So everyone's just got to be patient when they're trying to get that star Ellie or that star guardian. They got to be willing to work with them and, just take little steps, because you're not going to get there overnight. So.
Okay, cool. So we're gonna go back to the group composition and strengths and weaknesses. So how about let's have Enigma. Why don't you talk about what you do for group composition and how do you work with your strengths and weaknesses as a guild?
Well, this comes down to, again, personal skill level. Like, at least I believe so in this case. Let's say you have 2 really good thieves. So you should build your whole team around that composition, like around the 2 thieves, and you should have you should build around a focus party, a really good focus party. So you should have a sustainable melee train with DPS, of course, and you should have something that would support your thieves and would not let them to die. So let's say that you have 2 mesmers, 2 thieves, and then the other guild has I don't know, let's say 1 mesmer, 2 thieves and 1 mesmer. So you should use your 1-man advantage to kill that and to quickly annihilate the casters, and then your melee train can just start picking off one by one when you do that. So it goes like this, for me at least. This is what my guild runs, and this is what it's been successful in. We have 2 of the best thieves in the game, so we built our comp in a way around them. So we've built a really strong necro DPS with a really strong melee at the same time. And when our thieves down something, we just go and bomb that spot. And we usually drop 3 or 4 people from their guild, and this has happened with almost every guild that we fought right now. So, yeah, this is pretty much.
The thieves will win.
No, I never said that. If you have 2 good Mesmers, you can build your team around those. Or if you have like a really sick melee train, just like TA did, you can work with your melee train and do the rest with that. It's just what you have, and like it's just what the guild has as players. If you have a really strong melee train, you can wreck anything. But if your melee train is okay and your focus party is really good, then it's always gonna be that focus party that will carry the game. Because a good melee train cannot kill a decent melee train.
If your melee train's bad, you just got to survive and let the assist team do the work.
Yeah.
If your assist team's better.
Pretty much. That was the problem with 7th against TA. Our melee train just didn't do the work. But our focus party did what it was supposed to. And then TA started killing us off one by one. Because our melee was just so spread out. And they just died each push. Each push we lost 2 people. So there's no way, even if you one-shot something at the beginning, there's no way to win this. So yeah,
people can stop spam PMing me now to get on here. What the fuck, man? Fucking try to spam me over on Skype. They're doing some JVG thing. What the fuck? So sorry, what was there? What were we on about?
Build your comp, what you have strong people about, what players you have.
Yeah, you gotta build it around, like he's been saying the whole time, whatever's strong. So if you have a really, like he said, I mean, I'm just re-emphasizing, if you have good one thing but bad of another, work with your guys to help assist. Like you said, use the example of like the melee train. So you have a good melee train but bad pick team, gank squad, focus, whatever the fuck you want to call it. You gotta work with to have your melee train be able to help them, but you have to work more around fixing with your melee train. Like that's what I did with my guild. Was we had pretty much nobody ever logged in for our gank squad, so we pretty much ran mostly melee and whatnot. And that's where we built our strengths around, was just making sure all our damage pretty much came from our melee, because when we had our Ellies as more of a support thing to basically keep the melee train alive. But yeah, you have to do whatever you can to with what you have. You got to take what you have that's good and make it better.
Pretty much, yeah. Thank you.
Does anyone else on the panel have anything to add to that?
Well,
one thing, question like exactly we're talking about?
Composition. Talk about it. How do you play to your strength? Theory craft and all that stuff. But like, one of the things I was going to say, like, is as far as your comp, yeah, you build to your own strengths. But you've got to think about what you're fighting, who you're going to be fighting. You've got to, like, because different comps work against different guilds. You've got to know what, you've got to figure out what they're going to be running, and then you adapt your, like, you've got to have, more than one comp that you can fall back on, and they've got to be different comps for different situations and different guilds. Because if you just build around your own strength, and that's all that you do, like you build a comp around what you're good at, everyone's going to realize, everyone's going to figure out what you're good at, like, and then if they're smart, they're going to be trying to build their comp to counter what you're doing, and it might not be, they might have that particular guild might be able to build a stronger comp for how they play. But they can, like, they'll adjust their comp slightly and make their comp slightly weaker for their strength in play, but it'll make their comp work better against what they're fighting. Like, because you've got your comp has to be based around who you're fighting.
Exactly. Because the same shit won't work for everybody. You have to change it up based on who you're fighting.
Unless you just one push them.
Unless you just one push them.
Well, now maybe I'd agree with that now with the way the game is in the guilds. Because obviously the guilds die off and then they recycle, then guilds die and they're taking new people. Because I was listening when I was getting a drink before, people were on about you got to use your strengths. Whereas I wouldn't say it was like that before. It's obviously because the guilds have gotten weaker. They recycle themselves with the people that quit, or other guilds quit, and you've got to fit them in. And I suppose you could just look at it that you've got to, everyone's got to play their best, rather than just sections or whatever.
Rangers, got to use Rangers.
Does anyone have anything else to add to the question about group comps and strengths and weaknesses?
Another thing about group comps is that you may not end up with the comp that you originally start with. It's also something that will change throughout the GVG. Like you may start with, I don't know, 6 guards, 4 warriors, whatever for the casters, and then it might change depending on how your opposing team reacts or responds to whatever you throw at them first. So
It's also important to make sure that your roles are flexible. Like, for Necros and like a DPS warrior are pretty good examples because a Necro can do really, really punishing single target damage if that's really important. If you want to focus down just individual targets, they can do that. But they're also very good at putting out a lot of AoE damage, so you can sort of have them transition in the round itself or between rounds and do that stuff. And it's the same with like a DPS warrior. Some rounds we've ran a lot of DPS warriors in the past, and some pretty good ones, and they can you can do a lot of things with them. They can stick in the melee chain, press one all the time, just do a truckload of damage to the front line. Or if your front line's fine, they're already sustaining perfectly well, you can have them peel off and chase dudes all over the sanctum and just kill dudes. And so, like, the players need to be flexible within themselves.
How do you? Is that something that you teach them, or is that something that you
The
define?
players learn and develop it themselves. We try the things, and then if they work, we refine them, and then get them to work even better the next time. It's not always something you can just immediately teach to new players. Like, a recording is a really, really good thing if people want to play a particular role, and you have them recording their stuff, and then you can really break down their gameplay and teach them, you could have done this here, you could have done that there, or this was totally unnecessary, you should have been spending your time doing this. And then that's sort of the way. There aren't a whole lot of innovators out there, so it's hard to get this new stuff happening all the time.
How do you work with people that don't have the capability to record themselves then?
Watch them
And
in PvP.
Put them in the SPVP
Yeah.
arena. And you see what they're doing.
it depends though. Like you can throw a Necro or an Ellie in SPVP and you can see how they do against Mesmers or Thieves, but it's harder for, let's say, a Warrior or a Guardian because it's just not the same pressure. Sure, they'll get picked off by a Mesmer or a Thief in SPVP, but that's not really what's going to be happening for Guardians in a GVG environment. Like, you gotta watch if they're popping their stab at the right time, or if Warriors are using their shouts correctly to actually cleanse instead of just, healing or doing it for whatever reason. So it really depends.
It doesn't, to be honest, because you can put them in a 10v10 in the SPVP. So you can do almost the same thing. And then you can see which group works better as a team and build the team synergy. Because you always have, okay, so this Ellie works better with this Ellie, and that guy doesn't work good with this guy. So you just got to be like flexible in your teammate, as one of the guys here said. Just have to build team synergy, and everything will go from there.
Awesome.
You can only train people so much, though. You got to try and recruit people that are like the best at what they do.
You can show them how
I
to do
don't
it.
agree with that, but okay.
You gotta show them how to do it, but then
you can show people for sure. But there's always going to be someone that you recruit to who's never going to be as good as someone that was.
I agree with
from the
Sacrx.
start.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Some
You show them
people
what to do. It's
do
on
have
them.
a better natural affinity for certain
years ago,
things.
we're talking about now, obviously now with like I said, with a recycling problem. Like, yeah, you've got to find the people and you've got to train them up. I mean, I wouldn't recruit people when we fucking when we were playing the first time around. I wouldn't recruit people because the people you got in your guild were like nowhere near the quality that you had, and I could never be asked to fucking train the people because they were never going to be as good. You might as well just try and ninja people from the other good fucking guilds, or if you see one guy who's good or whatever, and you see he was interested, that was the way it went.
Yeah, that was something that did happen at the height of our day, definitely. We used to kind of
You
like
mean like
players
with
from each
fucking you
other.
beg Misfell to fucking come and lead his eye?
With
You're like,
Doid
"Oh,
and
this
stuff,
guy's
but I'm
a
glad you
VoTF
took
fan."
Doid now, Sacrx. Doid best fucking melee.
Doid fucking whiner, right?
The one key Mesmer.
Nah, I'm not here to talk about Doid fucking Indigo retards with their stupid bullshit.
I wouldn't either. I really wouldn't.
Nah, they've already been told that they were fucking retarded with the stuff that they put or whatever.
What
They should have got more
happened?
flamed, more, to be honest. Like,
Wow.
you went easy on them. You should have been more flaming.
No, I
Alright.
thought I'd be nice to them. It's embarrassment enough to, losing like that.
Alright, so if no one has anything else to add to the group composition, we're gonna move on to the next question.
I've actually got something to add. Talking about working to your strengths, like guilds, you're talking about startup guilds, that stuff. You don't know what your strengths are. The only way to get better is to do it. Like, there's so many guilds out there that are basically, oh shit, I don't want to go into GVG because, oh my god, I may lose. Like, the first time VoTF went into GVG, we went in full glass cannon spec with Omnomberry just to back us up for a bit of sustain. We got annihilated, like completely annihilated just because of the spec we took in. But we kept going. I think we fought you how many times? 16 times?
You fucking stop making the excuse. Oh, we changed it,
They were amazing! Omnoms were amazing. But no, we adapted from that then. We basically thought...
You fucking copied all of our specs.
We didn't copy you, you bunch of scrubs. We changed from you.
Jackie was
My
fucking
god.
messaging Cyril asking him for his building shit.
No.
Cyril and Jackie always used to whine. Like, Jackie was said...
They used to bitch at each other because they used to say that they were stealing when... Yeah.
Alright, if you guys want to talk about personal stuff, you can talk about it later. But
Yeah,
let's try to keep focus for this workshop. We have a limited amount of time.
Motherfucker.
Alright, so we're gonna move on to the next question. So the next question involves communication. Can you guys talk about the calls that you make? What do you like to use? What do you not like to use? What are some important things that you think are necessary for a driver to call or be aware of if you are GVGing? Why don't we start with a Jericho?
What?
The question, Jericho.
What was the question?
Oh my god.
Way to fuck say attention.
Calls and important things when you're in a
flat.
GVG.
Oh, shit, alright.
Communication.
Important things. Water fields, pizza, and faggots. Well, that's the main calls that I used.
But you called about me.
Gibberish.
Yeah.
Wow.
Alright, so pizza
Did any of
was...
you even know how to fucking call that shit before you watched that video, eh?
Pizza was, it was for, like, they have no stability. So all you would hear on our TeamSpeak was, like, people yelling pizza. And it made us really fucking hungry. But so people would see, like, pizza, pizza. So then everybody would just, like, start dropping CCs on them. And,
This is some crazy American shit right now.
Yeah. And then another call was DD. It meant Death Dot.
Fuck yeah, Death Dot.
Yeah.
Thank Gismor for that.
What?
What?
And another one
You want to
was,
explain what Death Dot is?
Death Dot?
I got this one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Death Dot is what EK used for our melee, which is where all our damage came in. We basically just turtled up. We all ran Greatsword Hammer Guardians, and it was mostly on them, as they would switch to Greatswords, drop Greatsword 4 for the retile, because it just stacks it by itself, and then just start spinning, and it basically insta-killed anything that came into it and wasn't smart enough to dodge. And we didn't even take a lot of damage out of it either, because everything pretty much just died on ink. But it's basically just, I think other people changed it a bit, but that's how we used it. Was just a full melee bomb right on position. And then I think other people, you would use like Necro Wells and all that shit, but we didn't always have a lot of Necros on, and our LAs were too busy trying to keep us alive with waters. It's pretty much just like a big retail bomb, but we added the spin to win.
Red bombers up, baby!
Enigma. Oh no, go ahead, Gismor. You have more?
No, that's it. Death Dot OP.
Okay. Enigma, you have any important calls that you like to make when you're GVGing as a driver? Anything that you think is important for people to understand?
Yeah, to especially like peel from a side to not go in, to go for necro wells and to go for immobilizers at the same time, to bomb at the same spot, and it's really compact. To be really, really, really compact, the bomb, then not to spread it out like on the whole map. And just to be very compact as a whole unit and to be as slow as you can as a leader. Also sometimes banners just to wake up people, and sometimes to shout at people when they didn't call their down. Because this is a major problem in every guild. The bannering,
Slow, did you say
and
you
also...
lead slow, eh? As
Yeah.
slow as you can, is that what you said?
No, I said as slow as you can in a way, like to peel from the side, because you need to have a tight melee train. That's what I said.
And your melee trains fail. You gotta move fast, man. You just gotta make sure that
Okay,
the fucking
man.
whipping them to stay together.
Okay. Keep
Sacrx,
believing
do
that.
you have anything to add to question?
Obviously, stability, I'm calling them mobilizers, statics, when you're doing regroups, ranged bombing, staying compact, death walls, mobilize stacking when they're dropping their well bombs, move in and out.
Hodor.
Peeling the
Obviously,
onion.
you got to have the things that every motherfucking Eggerani stole from us, like fucking VoTF and naming their videos, and every other motherfucker, like Big and Strong and Peel the Onion and shit, and
Big
Little
and
Melon.
strong. What the fuck is that?
Just for
Like
clarification.
Peel the Onion, basically what Peel the Onion is, you
Yeah,
got to
yeah.
hit them spot.
Small and weak.
You got to hit the same spot, like with all your damage, while also trying to avoid their damage.
Yeah.
You can do the dance, and you got to kind of like, he's peeling the layer of an onion, like moving around, hitting the 5 target limit, moving, burst, move, Just keep picking them off like a domino effect in a circle, if you know what I mean. That's the best way to peel like a big fucking blob, like in the old times, and it was good old days of confusion. Obviously stacking retail bombs, water fields. Well, I remember a lot of the US people would, they'd be like, we do a water field now where you should just be seeing big blast, small blast from your elementalists, and everyone knows when to blast. That's pretty much it. I mean, I suppose most people know this. Obviously, this isn't like trying to help people get into GPG. Yeah, I think that's about it, really. Just gotta keep people coordinated, stay compact.
Yeah, everybody has a lot of shit that they need to go out.
Like movement and stuff. No one's touched on. I don't
moving
think.
left,
Like, the
rolling right,
movement
moving.
is I think that's almost the most important thing. For a driver, it's calling movement and everything.
Yeah, I mean,
so everyone knows ahead of time.
There's call and movement, and then everyone should really just follow. The leader shouldn't always be calling it, even though it was just like a secondary thing, I would say. But generally, people are just kind of following the marker.
Yeah. Usually, I would only call
regroup
locations.
If you need to tell people where the fuck to move, then they're not really good players anyways.
Yeah, they should know where you're gonna go anyway. I mean, they should understand where you are, where you're gonna go, what you're gonna do. Like the biggest thing for a driver, as you're now calling it, is momentum. That's the biggest thing that you do as a driver, is push the momentum up as much as you can.
But you've got to be unpredictable I think it's important to be unpredictable.
Why? Why would you be unpredictable though? Why, if you've been training your guys and if you've been getting them to... If you're playing
against a good driver, he's going to know what you're going to... Like, you're
playing against a good driver,
the good driver's going to know where you're going to move.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you get inside the head of the other driver for sure.
Yeah, that's the important thing.
I mean, that was one thing I would do, but that wasn't necessarily a thing. Even if you do the same shit over and over, if you do it perfect, you're going to win.
Yeah, just do it better than them.
Like nowadays, yeah, you might have to play a little bit... Like in my terms, lame, I would say. Like obviously we were talking about before with the melee trains. If you got a good melee train and your melee trains are good, you got good neck rows. You got really the best assist team that's left remaining. Then you can use that to your strengths and go full tanky on your melee. Then just fucking kite their melee and let their assist team pick off their elementless neck rows. And then you've got the numbers advantage, the snowball effect.
Is that how they do it in EU?
That's
Well,
not gonna work.
there was many different metas. I mean, now you've got the meta with people using the fucking plus condition food instead of the minus. I've seen that. But, I mean, the meta changed quite a few times, obviously, with the confusion nerf, and then when we came back, it was more the assist team, like 3 groups of melee, or like with the melee train, maybe networks would coordinate with the assist team, but then generally the assist team would work out of the way of the main train. Some people still run the old meta, some guilds. Just depends, I suppose.
And mighty blows, yeah. Gotta call those mighty blows. Gotta call that number 2. That's all I do. Just run around going 2. Mighty blow, mighty blow, mighty blow.
I think the biggest thing for a driver too is also your energy level. Like, your players are gonna feed off of your energy. If you're leading, like, you just woke up and you have no energy, your team's gonna play like that. So the more excitement you have.
There was very few people until we fucking seen how crazy I fucking was in that video. And every motherfucker's like that now. Yeah, for sure. You need the energy. I mean, you need to fucking get people going. And it's a fast-paced game. It's very reaction-based. It's 80%, 90% fucking movement. Anyways, this game like win. If everybody's on the ball, everyone's at the level what they need to be, then you're already on it.
So for people that are starting off as a DVG driver, or people that want to get started in that, what would you guys think is the most important role or thing for them to work on then?
Excitement. If you have that already, then
No,
obviously your
I
movement.
wouldn't say that. I would say excitement. Obviously, they need to want to do it. That's the first thing they need to want to do it, and then they need to understand, like mainly a lot of the classes and what their key abilities are. That's the first thing they need to learn. I would say probably Guardian or Warrior for sure.
Yeah.
The third thing. And then, but no, definitely learn like the skills like back in the day, like obviously Mesmer, quick cast. Quickness 1, time warp, obviously Veil. Learning obviously empowers, water fields, just all the key abilities really, and then what you can stack and effectively like win the battles for you. And then working on movement, coordination with your main people, like when we used to have like Doid or Mona who would play Veil 1. Veil 1 now, they need to be obviously quite fast.
Okay.
Just general stuff, really.
Anyone else have anything else to add before we can move on to the next question?
I have a little bit to add about the communication. It's just really important. People are always really concise and precise about what you're calling. I'm sure all of you have heard some DVD videos of comms being cluttered and people shouting all over the place, but pretty much everything is really, really specific, and the people react to specific calls differently. So whenever you hear something called, you need to know, okay, that's something I need to react to. I hear our Necro Wells and our Meteors going down. I'm a warrior. I need to flurry now. I hear Waterfield. I need to blast, etc., etc. Or, if someone's in a periph, they hear some of this stuff and they need to ignore it because that's not important to them. And it's like another thing specific about, getting banners down. Try and give it direction. Try and give your health, like, give your warriors time to know that you might be going down. Because the more information you can give, it's the less thinking time the rest of your guild needs to use to help you. So talking more is helping everybody. Like, they don't want to have to remember who you are, find you, and then respond to it. They just want to be able to respond instantly. And if you can help them do that, then that's really, really important.
But if you've been playing long enough together and you've trained long enough together and you've gone into GVGs enough together, then that'll just be off the bat. You won't need all of the information. You won't need to basically relay your life story over TeamSpeak for them to know A, where you are, what your health is, if you're about to go down, if you're not about to go down. There's too much room for error if you're just relaying too much information, and then there's crossover of information, and people are just getting confused and fucked up and not really understanding what the hell is going on. Don't need too much information, minimal amount of information over TeamSpeak, but the information that you relay needs to be important.
Yeah, just say the important
needs to be concise and quick.
Like, if people, when people listen to our own fucking TeamSpeak or whatever, they thought I was mental and didn't have a fucking clue, and people shouting random shit, it was because we played together for so long and everyone knew the calls, what they meant, and generally, obviously myself, I've been quite known what everyone's doing anyways. It
I mean,
depends. Some guilds play more like coordinated, like not just like the hive mind kind of how I would say we did in regard. Like everyone knew their jobs and they were all good players, but we kind of led it as like a hive mind. Some people like to talk between each other, like more coordinated. Like each people calling their jobs and the leader just leading in general.
everybody has things that. Go ahead. Sorry.
If you guys, we're going through questions that we prepared, but if there's anyone in the audience that has questions for people on the panel, please message. Actually, just type it in the GVG workshop chat box. Try to be like question, and then Amelia or Rihanna will take the question down, and then we'll be able to talk about it. So yeah, if you have a question, be like question and the question that you want to ask, and one of the moderators will jot it down for us to talk about after our prepared questions section. Okay. So no one else has anything to add. Let's go on to the next question. So this is we were talking about this earlier in the workshop. Training, how do you train people? How do you prepare your people? How do you view scrims as? What do you use scrims to help your guild with? And if you're going through a rough phase with your guild, what do you do to keep up group morale and keep them coming every night in training?
Well, one training thing that is what I found beneficial is doing I think we've said it before, is like the 10v10s, or what we did like 9v9s. And SPVP, we add our own personal arena, and we just did small stuff like that. It's like a small watered down GVG type thing. You just throw a couple guards, couple guardians, couple warriors, and an Ellie Necro and like a thief or whatever on all the teams, and then just have them go at it and have a couple of your players drive. Like a couple of your melee guys just drive it, and that gets them, those guys, you change the melee drivers because it gives them experience as to what it's like to be a driver, and open up their vision, I guess you could say, on the battlefield, so that they can see more things like all the drivers have to, but also let you look at their skills, and it's like look at who needs to fix what, who's using their shouts wrong, who's using their stability wrong, who's not dropping the water fields right. That's one thing that we found very effective, and another was even something as silly as just spending an hour in Heart of the Mist practicing movement, staying as compact as possible, leaping together, and just like I said, just staying together and moving together with the melee train and getting everybody on point with that. I've spent a couple times where we've spent an hour plus and Heart of the Mist just literally leaping on something and staying together and calling out people who were behind even by like half a second.
Rod, I know you wanted to talk a little about training. Go ahead.
As far as Guardians, because I spent a lot of time in the early stages when NS first started with our Guardians. One thing that we did back in the day was we had we would go an entire week of not running altruistic healing, and then like the next week we would put it on, and if you go like entire month or a week running without altruistic healing and you can survive, you know you're doing something right, and once you turn it on, you just feel like God. But it's a good way of training your Guardians. Like, just try raiding without it, and then see if you can survive. You can work on what are you doing wrong if you're missing dodges, or just one way of training your Guardians.
Just to go over just a quick point that like nowadays, obviously we didn't really do that with the quality that I think we had good players. But no, nowadays like the 10v10 stuff in the SPVP, even though that does, it's not really the same. Yeah, you get a similar feeling, you can run around, things like that. But one thing what's for sure is that this team in your guild, you definitely want to have them being SPVP heroes. They should play together so they can coordinate, like choose targets in SPVP, get them that type of training. Whereas we were just lucky that shit and doing that and did that anyways through the game. Whereas, like I say, I was never asked with SPVP, so shit.
Yeah, just to expand on that, if you don't have players that actually want to invest their own time into improving, then like you might as well give up now or just re-roll them. Especially if you want to be the best of the best, or at least get better than anyone else that you're going to fight. I mean, there are some guilds out there that are just happy to mid-level GVG, and that's okay. There are some guilds that want to reach for the sky, and that's amazing. But it all comes down to individual skill at the end of the day. Individual skill makes up for a hell of a lot in GVGs. An individual skill doesn't mean that they only focus on themselves. They understand what's going on in a fight. They understand what's going on with their teammates. They understand how to react to certain things. They can cover for each other. They can peel whatever. But it all comes down to that individual, and that is the core aspect of building a good GVG team and training. Basically, they need to be good themselves, and they need to want to invest in themselves as well.
For sure, if you want the best, if you want to aim for like the best skill, or like now with what you've got, like let's take now for instance, you want to have the best players. You want to try and get the best players playing the thief or the mesmer. And then you want to have a good driver. They're the first things you should look at. So your assist team, and then your driver. And the rest of the stuff nowadays, you can probably just like get that. Yeah, you want to have the best players on your Guardians, but generally that's the way the meta went. A lot of fucking people, Guardians, Warriors, Necros, and then have your specialty guys who were like, 4 or 5 guys in the guild. You wouldn't use anyone else on a thief or a mesmer for any other reason nowadays. So if you've got them 4 or 5 guys that play SPVP together, who are your assist team, then Guardians are dime a dozen now, Warriors. Obviously you still want to get the best quality, but there's plenty of Guardians and Warriors and Necros to choose from. You just got to try and get the best ones. But generally if you're going for high, you want to have 6 to 10 active Guardians, 6, 7 Warriors on a night, and then 5, 6 Necros, 1, 2 Mesmers for backup, 1 or 2 Thieves. That's probably about it.
Okay.
And then
The way
5, 6 allies.
The way we did it in Ag was we always kept a small roster, and I think it was a couple months back after EP came back from losing in EU. We scrimmed about almost every day, and since we could only field around 22 people, everybody got to play. So we usually did around 19 rounds a day, about 4 weeks straight. And
a lot of us in RG played together for a long time, so I would have a roster. It was like when at the start, it was quite high. It was like 50 or whatever, but then we were down to 35, and then some people would log on certain nights, but generally would be around 25. So yeah, you know the main people that are playing in your guild. There's always going to be better people in your guild. That's just life.
Yeah.
So you want to choose your best people for sure when you're playing or doing the GVGs. The problem is, the way I would look at it is, if you won't use someone in the GVG team, they're not good enough to be in your guild, or if they're not good enough to play in your group, then they're not good enough to be in the guild. That's the way I would look at it. You want to use everybody. Yeah, there's obviously going to be the weakest people you have in your guild, but you're only as good as your weakest link. The best way to play this, we're talking doing GVGs 3 to 5% of the time you've played Guild Wars 2. This is not a lot. You want to be out every night in the zone, you sort your groups, buffs, everything, then just go out and fight Zergs with your 20 to 25 guys. And don't run more than that, and then just keep fighting Zergs, and if you die, you die. The point is, you've got to try and find as many people as possible. And then
I
you'll
think it's
find out
changed
who's
a
the
bit
weak links.
now, though. I think now, anyway, with the Sanctum where it is and everything, I think one of the biggest ways that people get better is doing GVGs over and over again. Because now you have to fight the Zergs completely differently to how you fight in fight another guild in a GVG. It does, yeah, you do get something out of fighting the Zergs, but I think the biggest steps forward you make are just scrimming over and over, or just GVGing, whatever you call, just doing that.
If you want to be the best or whatever, you've got to see it. That's why I would be annoyed if even on a night, even if there wasn't many people on, or we would slacken or whatever. When we went out, I would play as if I'm fighting like VoTF, Golden Horde versus the Zerg. I wouldn't give a shit if
Well,
you
would
were
you die
yourself or
alive?
not. No, just listen to what I'm saying. So basically, I'm pumping my guys up no matter what we're doing to the same level as if I'm doing it the highest level GBG we ever did. I want everyone. That was the problem with me. Why I would fucking rage. I never just raged at people. I would rage because everyone in my guild, I knew how good they were at one point. So they've all proved to me at one point that they're all that. At one point that they've given me 100%. The problem with me is that I wanted it every fucking time they logged on, and some people didn't give that, and that was what fucking made me pissed off. You've got to get them 100% all the time, regardless if you're doing open RVR versus the Zerg or in a GBG. So then when it comes time to do a GBG, everyone's like on form regardless.
That's actually something that people have been talking about recently. There's this new website, GW2leaderboards.com, and there's been discussion about, what is the difference between a scrim and official.
Just put in, what was it? Let me tell you the story on this. First of all, when GBG was started, it was about fun. We didn't even give a shit about numbers between us and Sin or us and Tup. We just fought. We wanted to fight because we knew these guilds from war. Now, when we're too EP-ing these fuck... I mean, we were a little bit guilty of that, but there was, VoTF, GD, or whatever, and all these other people. They didn't want to fight. It was all like a scrim. Like, for us, if we lost once, none of them were fucking scrims for us. Like, they were all officials, even if they weren't, like, official. That was the problem. People cared too much about the EP rather than just having a fun fight or wanting to have the good action of the fight. It just became too like, my score on this side or whatever, like this and that. It became kind of pathetic.
Do you guys on the panel think that having a leaderboard is actually a good thing for the GVG scene, or is it actually a toxic thing?
It was good and bad. It put more light and helped expose GVG to people to play GVG. Then people got the taste of it, and then the fucking E-pains went to their heads, and then it became toxic because they let it became toxic for their guilds. Like, they cared too much about fucking winning over... Like, just fucking... Rather than fighting. People obviously would say that about us, like, oh, we were all E-pain and shit. Yeah, we wanted to be the best, and we wanted to fucking win, but we didn't, just not, not date them or not fight people in the open because we haven't got this or that. And then people, we want to do a scrim. Fair enough, there's sometimes where you might not have your best team online or whatever, and you want to do a scrim. But if people get onto it ahead of time, then you should be able to get your guys on.
People would automatically care about the numbers and the leaderboards, and then with the huge disparity in tiers and matchups, there would be guilds that haven't played each other, like in the top rankings. Like, then people would get upset, and then there's the whole raw needle stuff, and you guys know everything about that.
You should fight every time, pretty much.
It's not a good or a bad thing.
And just learn from what you did bad in the last time, and then do it better. Like, next time when you meet them, for example, if you see your water fields suck in one scrim, then fix the fact that your water fields are bad. Just be productive with everything you do, with every fight you get, because you can get the most out of your scrims every time. And I'd advise to just fight, and because you'll never improve unless you get your ass whooped. Maybe.
Yeah, but I would still. Yeah, there's two types of training in my mind. Yeah, you can do that scrim stuff over and over and over. You want to fight better guilds for sure, even if you're not as good. Like, fight the best guilds, you're only going to get better in that sense. Then there's also the sense that if you can take on 2 or 3 times your number with your 20 GVG team, you're fucking already getting way harder than you are just doing scrims versus the best guilds. Like, because you can take more pressure, you're reacting more faster, water fields are faster, you're doing blasting faster, you're moving to take the pressure. So if you can beat like 80 guys with 20, when it comes to a 20v20, you're a hardened warrior. And that's the way we went about it. Kill as many people as possible. If we die, we die.
Alright, Gismor, how about you? How do you like to treat scrims, and what kind of function do they have, back when you were leading EK?
Well, we always had I can't even think of the word, not a very active roster. We had a small roster, and it was fairly active, but not all the time. Like, some nights we would have a shit ton on, some nights we would barely have enough for a 15v15. And even then, it was a bunch of people I didn't like that log in once a week, once every couple weeks. So I wouldn't feel confident enough going in and doing GVGs, even scrims with them, simply because I just don't feel like dealing with the bullshit. Because I stressed out about that stuff, any type of thing. Because I personally just hate losing. But I guess it could be that EPing thing. I don't know. I just hate losing. I've always hated it, and I don't know why anybody would like losing. But I know it's an important part. But now, I mean, scrims are like I think Jericho said it the other day, and Sacrx just said it here. It's you should treat every GVG, even a scrim, like it's the real thing. Put it all on the line. Just if you have people in your guild who are like, we're just doing a scrim, I'm not going to go 100%, then fuck them. You don't need them if they're not willing to put 100%. I mean, at me as a driver, I gave it 100% every time. I know some of my players didn't always give 100%. So but that's what bottom line is if it's scrim, GVG, official, unofficial, whatever you want to call it, give it 100%. Go big or go home, basically.
Okay.
The thing is, though, people are giving 100%, or they fucking should be, or then you got to get your leaders got to get people up to that level, even if it's a scrim. You got to think like, who gives if it's what if it's a scrim? The problem was that then people use that as an excuse, like, we lost or whatever. It was only scrim.
Yeah, Parver, how about you? You have any to add for scrims and how you can use them to make your guild better?
Just try to do them as much as possible. Always be looking to do scrims because that's the only way to improve as a GVG guild. You won't get that same experience fighting Zergs all the time.
There's even Zergs to fight.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be willing though, because there's been numerous times where people would be like, oh, I don't have a comp, or oh, my best guard isn't online, oh, my best Ellie isn't online, and that's going to stop them from doing an actual scrim like it's just a fight. We just want to not get blobbed down. We don't want to get outnumbered. We just want an even 15v15, 20v20, whatever it may be. But people just need to be willing to do it and not be afraid to lose.
So, how people that are just getting into GVGs and scrims, they don't want to get blown apart, but a lot of you are saying that even if you get one push or whatever, you should still keep fighting. You shouldn't get worried about one push. That's how you get better.
I don't know. If someone's getting one push, that's kind of rough.
Yeah. So as a driver, from your guys' experience on the panel, first of all, how do you keep up group morale? Everyone here started at the top. I don't think anyone started at the top. Everyone had to work their way up. So through being wiped and whatever, how do you keep up group morale? How do you deal with losing in scrims, and what do you do to bounce back to improve yourself the next night and keep your guys wanting to come every night to improve? Rod, how about you? I think Rod's AFK. How about okay?
Wait, what did you ask? How to keep up group?
Yeah, so not when people are starting off, it can be rough. You don't start at the top. So what do you do as a leader or a driver to make sure that your people are showing up every night, even if it's pretty brutal sometimes?
It's not easy. Honestly, I don't know a good answer for this, but the morale is gonna go down, and you just gotta accept that, and then make sure you come back the next day where your head's up.
How about Indy? You have anything? How do you keep up group morale? What do you do after you lose a scrim? What do you do the next day to keep yourself and your guild going so that you can keep improving and keep fighting?
I think if they see, you've got to figure out why you lost. And if they see that that you've, as a driver, if you've taken the effort to figure out exactly why you didn't win that those fights that particular day, I think it's a lot easier to keep people motivated. They see that you're trying to do something to continue to improve. Because I think if they, if you're not doing anything, if you're not putting in that extra bit of effort, there's no way that they're going to put in that extra bit of effort. And so I think it's it's incredibly important to like if you lose some, if you lose anything, like you've got to really lift the tempo yourself. Like when you're in TeamSpeak and stuff, that following day, and you've got to explain why you think you lost, what you're going to do differently, like what you can adjust, and I think also like even when you're winning though, like you've got to try and keep the guys interested. Outside of like official GVGs and stuff like that, you got to be trying different stuff. Like playing around with your comp as well, just to keep everyone interested. Because if you run the same stuff all the time, even if it's working, people tend to get a little bit bored. So like, you've got to keep it interesting, and you've got to make sure that I don't know. I think I'm a big thing. Like you've got to make sure that people have fun, and you have a hell of a lot more fun when you're winning. But like as long as you can still have fun, I think it keeps everyone sort of pumped up to continue logging in.
The key two things is motivation, keeping people motivated, and also emotion. Like even if you're losing, no fucking emotion. Whip the hell, let's go out again. Like literally that would be me. I would go out, I would die. If we died 40 times, the 41st time we'd be going out exactly the same as the first time we got wiped. Simple as that. And then also the people in your guild, the ones that are weak and fucking log off and whine and make excuses or whatever to try and like D someone else. They just get kicked. They're not the people you want in your guild. The weaklings that'll crumble under pressure. Like, and you just got to keep going. Like go again. Like see what they're doing. Try something different. Maybe try something like flanking. Try change up tactics. I wouldn't necessarily agree with the people getting bored with playing the same builds, because if that, then they haven't really got very good attention spans. If that's the case, that you use the best specs, what your class is designed for, not necessarily changing builds to keep people interested. If that's the case, then the less interested with the game rather than actual your guild in that situation.
Aneu, did you have something to add to that?
Yeah, just like Sacrx was saying then, I mean, it does come down, again, like I said previously, to the individual and how they internalize a loss. I mean, you get some people that try to externalize it and blame everything around them and, the world is wrong and everything is wrong and, oh my God, the guild sucks. Whereas then you get other people that internalize it a bit better and think, right, I did something wrong here. And the people that can admit to that are the ones you want to keep. The people that will admit to their mistakes and don't basically bullshit constantly. Like, if you lose a GVG, then it's quite blatant that your guys have made a lot of mistakes. And if they can't admit to that, if they can't see that, then you're on the wrong path to begin with. You basically need to set yourself a goal. You need to go through the recordings of the GVG that you just had as well, possibly from multiple angles, which is the best course that you can do. And just look at what went wrong. Pick out the issues that actually caused the loss. The vital moment that the first person went down or the first couple of people went down, and why the banners didn't go off right, and basically the snowball effect that occurred after that, and how that was able to happen. Why didn't anyone pick up the slack? Why didn't someone basically go balls deep and basically pick up everything that they could? There's been a couple of GVGs that we were in where we lost quite a lot of people, and everyone was thinking to themselves, shit, we're going to lose this one, but we pulled absolutely everything out and won. I mean, it is possible. So why didn't your guys do that then? Are they not equipped to do that? Did they not get trained enough to do that? Are they not understanding the game properly? I mean, did they not understand how to basically centralize damage on a small area so it's not spread out amongst a large group of people, so you get people down quicker? Is it an understanding of simple mechanics like that, or is it just a gameplay issue? Have they not played together long enough? There's so many different things that could cause you to lose a GVG that you all need to basically sit down together and go through them and then realize what the issues are and work on them. If you can't do that, then you're not going to get better at GVG and you're not going to win. And winning is what basically makes GVG worth it.
Thank you.
You've got to lock down the emotion. Like if you die, go out again, wipe that.
Yeah.
Like I just like start again. Like if people are thinking like in the fights, that we had or whatever when we fucking lost in the thing. I was mental. I was looking at what was happening, what went wrong, and I was just like, let's go again. Like wanting to right the wrong. Like you want revenge, and if people haven't got that in their heart, like after they lose, then they're not really the people you should have in your guild, really.
You should be pissed off if you lost.
Right that.
Everyone should be in a similar mindset. You should be angry if you have
No,
a shit
no,
raid.
you shouldn't. You shouldn't be pissed off. You shouldn't be angry. That's the wrong way to look at it.
You should have a way of. You should have the motivation and the want to fix the wrongs, and everybody should be.
A lot of this depends on the leader, though, in your
on
guild.
the same
like the
page
leader
with that.
and the atmosphere of the guild. Some guilds are different, so it depends how the leader handles himself, and then that filters down. So you lead by example, not just by leading on how you're playing, but leading also by like how you're showing your emotions when you're losing or even when you're winning. Like that's why I was never fucking happy. A lot of the RG guys would tell you, we kill 150 people with 20 of us. I'd be trying to make it sound like it wasn't that good. There's one of the videos, if you watch the Bumpy's video, in one where we fight the whole Spanish Zerg with like 22 of us on the hill. Most people probably know the fight I'm on about. In that fight, I was arguing with Emp, who doesn't have a fucking mic, so I'm shouting at him right down the mic. I'm saying, what the fuck are we doing? This is shit, this is shit. And then when I saw the recording back, I was like, fucking hell, that was an insane fight. We did amazing. Because I'm always trying to tell my guild like we did shit, just to keep them like in the mindset that we need to do better.
Yeah,
like,
you can improve.
I want even better. I want even better, even if we did like amazing. Like I was never happy. Only a few times I would obviously let them say like, yeah, we did awesome, but I was mostly keeping them on the hook, trying to keep them like not too much EP, like yeah, we did awesome in that fight. And also it would be the same if we were fighting any guilds in GVG. I wouldn't give a shit if they were like they'd never won a GVG ever. I would be playing 110% like I would be if I were fighting like VoTF or Golden Horde back in the day. Every GVG would be the same, and I would be shouting at people if they was people giving like the like, oh, these are not going to be that good or whatever. I'd just gone fucking mental on them. I'd be like, fucking give the enemy some respect. That's the first thing you need to give to the enemy. Even the people who you know are not as good, you need to make sure you think they're as good. So then you don't fuck up, because if people start thinking like that, then one guy gets a little slack with his water fields, one guy's stopping blasting faster, moving a little bit faster, and you're only as good as your weakest link.
Okay. Alright, so we're running a little short on time, so we're gonna move on to the next question. Before we go on to...
Can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, if you lose a GVG, I would advise you to sit with your guys after the GVG and just talk one by one. Like, just let them speak one by one when everyone can hear you. Just to see what everyone thinks. And then, as a leader, if you screwed up on something, you shouldn't say, oh, I didn't screw up. Like, you should think about absolutely everything and what they say, because there is a reason why they say it. And it's very useful and very good, like, what you can take from your players.
Okay, great.
Also, though, just one other thing as well. Like, also though, you've got to, I don't know, like you can't just look at a win and just be like, oh, cool, we won. You've got to look at the win, like, because there are GVGs that we've won. There are GVGs that we've won that I've been really unhappy with the fact that I was really unhappy with how we played, and like you've got to look at that as well. You can't just, I don't know, you can't just look at the losses and then like use that as okay, we've got to improve this here and there. Like you've got to look at even with the wins. Like you've got to, if it's a bad win, you've got to figure out why it was a bad win, rather than just sort of only caring about when you lose.
I was just gonna add that. Thanks, man.
You're looking on Twitch after the fight and then seeing from perspective if somebody recorded from up above, seeing who did what and who died first and could have done better on moving out the way of the assist train, or looking at your fucking assist train, or a necro failing to move back into the bomb to get back to you faster, or slow reactions from your driver to get to your assist train that's been trained down by their main train. Things like this you can work on by looking at the recordings.
Jericho, you have anything to add before we move on?
What? I fell asleep.
Okay, that's fine. Alright, we're gonna move on to the next question, just for brevity's sake. So this one is a good transition. We were talking about how our leader reacts to a win or a loss. So this is for drivers. us about what you do to make yourself, improve yourself. How do you keep composure during a fight? What do you do to make sure that you're leading your guild correctly? You're not getting tunnel vision, or you're not getting flustered. Things like that. What do you do personally? And also, how do you deal with any plateaus in your
Gladius.
driving? Yeah, Platius.
Gladius.
According to Jericho.
Gladius.
No, that was the nigga's fault in my fucking guild.
Gladius.
Gladius.
Platius.
Gladius.
Blame Leanne.
It was his fault.
Yeah, how do you deal with these kind of plateaus and tunnel vision? Let's start with Diviniya.
Keeping composure. If things are working, you keep doing them. If they're not working, you're gonna know. The guild's gonna say something. Hey, so and so's having trouble, or warriors are having trouble, or guardians are having trouble, or LEs are getting the crap kicked out of us. People are gonna talk. It's really important that the people in the guild communicate to figure out what the problem is, figure out what sort of things can you do to it to fix it. It's important as a driver too that you communicate that you are taking note of these problems and either putting forth your own ideas to fix it or asking for feedback. As far as like plateaus and adversity, like I like to lean on my guild a little bit for this. Like, people will get upset if we're getting our butt kicked in raids and stuff, and people will want to improve it, and people will want to fix it, and everybody will work towards just fixing it. And if they don't want to do that, then this isn't the guild for them. As far as like tunnel vision goes, I don't know. It's kind of a hard question. As a driver, like. Just as a driver, like, I don't have to do the normal job that a person following me does. Like, I can sort of just focus a little less on, like, actually dealing all my damage and shit, and I can just take more time to focus on moving, focus on, just simple shit like panning the camera, figuring out where everybody is, and, you've got a whole guild of dudes behind you. They're gonna do damage for you, and they're gonna do their jobs. And if you're able to put yourself sometimes a little bit more in the back seat, you can watch all of that. You can watch all that and figure out what's going on.
Enigma.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes. So what do you do to keep composure in fights? How do you avoid tunnel vision? How do you make sure that you have good vision as a driver? And then the second part of the question is, how do you, as a leader, deal with plateaus and adversity?
Well, about the first part, I just try to put as much pressure as I can on the enemy's melee train, and if I see that we start bombing, I see people solo bombing, then I do a complete regroup, just a bit far away from the fight, so that we can get a complete regroup with everyone and just move like that from there. As tunnel vision, do you mean tunnel vision for one target?
Yeah, tunnel vision, one target, or you focus too much on some aspect of the GVG, and then how do you make sure that you can be flexible as a driver?
Okay, so you gotta know what your opponent is, and you have to play your opponent. For example, if they play heavy necros, you need to be really quick. You need to just avoid the big bombs, and then try in the 40-second span that they have no cooldowns to bomb them then. Versus teams that are oriented on assist team oriented, you should just go for the either you should go for the assist team, or if you're melee wise oriented with your composition, you should go for their melee train, but you should try and stay really close to your casters so that you don't get picked off. Versus teams that play DPS warriors, heavy DPS warriors, I would focus them as well, because they can just be a really good target. Also, when we get something down and when we see people coming to hard res, I would really like bomb the shit out of that spot, and this works really well with guilds that power res. You can drop like 6-7 people in one bomb, which has happened. So yeah, pretty much this is my point of view.
Yeah, thank you. Gismor, can you add on to that?
Repeat the question again. Is it just the
Yeah,
plateauing and shit?
What do you do to keep composure during your fight as a driver? How do you avoid tunnel vision? How do you deal with that? And then as a leader, also, how do you deal with plateaus and adversity?
All right. Well, with dealing with tunnel vision, I think Enigma, like he said, just keep up the constant pressure. Because if you're not having to stress out as much if you're pressuring them versus if you're getting pressured. So, I mean, I think the obvious one is just keep the pressure on them, and just keep an eye on your party so that you know when to back off, regroup, heal, all that stuff, et cetera, et cetera. As for plateauing, if it gets to the point where we experienced this a few times where we were shit and we got better, and then we got to a certain point where we could maybe take a round or two on a couple guilds, but then still lose. Then we realized, okay, with this, we got to work on this. We studied some guilds films like Ag, Redguard, all them to see kind of things like that, what they did versus what we did, and try to pick up on some of that stuff. And then once we started doing that, those concepts, we started getting a little bit better, started taking more rounds, and eventually got to the point where we managed to win some GVGs and started making a name for ourselves. So you just have to look at other guilds' footage, see what they do, change up the builds a little bit, go a little bit with Glacier maybe to increase your damage, and also it'll improve your player skill wise, because it means that it's harder for them to survive.
Aneu, do you have anything to add on to that?
Yeah, if I can just pick up on. Actually, no, I'll start from the beginning. Composure. I mean, it's something learned at the end of the day. I think pretty much everyone that's gone into leading a raid or a serious raid, a competitive raid, when you first start off, you're never as good as you can be. So it's something that is basically taught. It's something that you learn. You learn your own style, basically. Like Sacrx has got the whole screamy thing going on. A couple of other people have got a more laid-back approach to things. I'm kind of sat there in the middle between having a go at people and calling loads of different shit out, basically over everything else. So yeah, I mean, composure is something that you can teach yourself. I mean, people will fuck up eventually. People will make mistakes, and that is part and parcel of being a raid leader. Which kind of brings me on to the second point of just because you're a raid leader doesn't mean you can't make mistakes, and your mistakes can basically cause an entire wipe. So there's more pressure on you as a person than anyone else in your entire raid. Okay, admittedly, that one screw up from your guild could potentially lose you a match, but it's far less likely that their screw up will lose you a match than your screw up. So being open to sensible feedback is something that you need to do, but it needs to be done in a constructive way. I don't agree with someone who said earlier on that you sit down and go through with everyone of what you did wrong. That is not a way to approach it as a leader of a raid. Individually, yep, okay. People doing it in private with you, brilliant, okay. But confidence in your raid leader is very, very important. If you've got people that are second guessing your calls, then they're going to screw up. They're not going to trust your calls. They're not going to do everything when they should be doing it. So, yep, okay. Basically admit your mistakes and let people criticize you, but do it in a way that's constructive and a way that doesn't undermine the confidence that is required in you.
Why you
I'm sorry.
Aneu?
Can I just
Wesley?
ask some question, please? Let me just ask this. Why wouldn't you sit and ask and talk with all your members? Because I have done this and it was really good. I just want to know why. Nothing else.
Because I hate them all and they should be doing what fuck them meant to be doing.
But do it in what's the difference between doing it in a room with everyone there and doing it privately one-on-one between each of them?
Because you're talking with the whole guild. As a whole, you just need to be humble and not be like, you should accept everything. Whatever they say.
No, you shouldn't accept everything, though.
Well,
that's the thing,
true.
Because some people will be calling mistakes that aren't mistakes. Some people will be looking at it from their perspective and not the perspective of the raid leader. The raid leader may have seen something differently, may have made a call that would have been better than the person that was initially second guessing them. I mean, that's what I'm talking about. These things can cause problems. These things can cause a loss of confidence in the raid leader. And you don't want that seeping out to everyone around them. Okay, sometimes these things can be amazing, they can be beneficial, fair enough. But other times they can go south, they can be just complete and utter clusterfucks of too many people having an opinion when they shouldn't be. That's why a one-on-one situation is better for that, rather than having everyone in one room.
So what you're kind of saying is like, with many people talking for too much time, like, it kind of wastes everyone's time.
In terms of criticizing the overall approach to a GVG, everyone in one room, brilliant. Okay. In terms of criticizing the raid leader, the person that's actually running your raid, an entire room approach is not a good idea. It's really not.
Well, you just need to be humble as a guild leader and as a raid leader to be a good
It's
raid
not
leader.
about humble. It's
It
about
is.
being progressive. It's about actually working to what needs to be done. And sometimes your members don't understand why you're calling certain things, but you call them anyway, because they won't see the entire picture. Their job is completely different to yours.
I don't agree with that.
That's
I
fine.
opened my
I don't
heart
agree
to
with
my
being
guys.
humble.
My heart was open. We held hands at the end of the night and we sang Kumbaya on TeamSpeak.
As a leader, you need to identify between people who are frustrated over things and taking anger out versus people who actually have a good perspective and are being, reasonable about their calls.
No,
That's really important.
Let me take this question now.
Oh my god.
Anyways, the question, calm like a bomb, I was mental, but I was calm as hell. You've got to keep calm, and you've got to. The one thing a driver needs to do, he needs to trust himself. If he's guild is saying shit, then just tell him to shut the fuck up. Then I'm going to clear, or tell them whatever you drive. Like, then they'll shut
How
the
is
fuck
that
up.
Productive?
Well,
in any way?
that's the way I did it. I mean,
Okay.
maybe nowadays you need to do that. The people you've got, maybe the best people around, but there may be, like I say, you might lose people if you read more with them, or you say some shit like, "What the fuck are you doing this for?" You might lead differently, whereas I didn't. Everyone knew where they stood with me. It was I was pretty straight down the line. Like in terms of leading on, going to the actual question, is I calm like a bomb. You've got to keep it. You got to keep it focused, not getting tunnel vision. That you can't teach a driver how to lead well. He basically needs to understand the battle. He needs to know when to regroup. He needs to see it in his head, like kind of like a sixth sense, like when he's driving. It's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to explain. Like you need to. You know what I mean. You need to see things before it happens. Really understand the game in general. You need to understand the classes, where people are standing, what they're about to do, how to counter it. There's not really that many counters if you've played quite a long time. You know what people are about to do or how they're going to come at you. Like most of the time, kill them mid the back line, avoid them. I mean, like if you're fighting a Zerg, just kill their squishies mid the back line, keep kiting their bomb.
Okay.
It's pretty straightforward.
We're gonna be going on to audience questions soon. So if you have something that you really want to ask the panel, please type it in the GVG workshop chat box, and we'll get to them. Depending on how good the question is. So please start doing that. But yeah, so back to the question, Jericho. Do you have anything to add for the keeping composure during fights? What's your style with dealing with plateaus and adversity? It's obvious that there are many different styles on this panel alone, and it'd be wrong to say that there's one exact way you have to do it. It probably depends on guild culture and whatnot. So can you speak a little about as your perspective as the ag leader?
Keeping composure. To be honest, the way we did our voice comps was, I don't know, just try to keep everybody laughing, having a good time. And if people were having a good time, then I was having a good time. That's how we did it. Can you explain the second part of the question again?
So something that Enigma and Aneu were talking about was, how do you deal with plateaus, adversity, losses, and scrims. So, on one hand, Enigma was really for speaking with the whole guild, but on the other hand, Aneu thought it was better to have the discussion more so in private. So, can you talk about your experiences in Ag and how you dealt with losses, and what kind of fashion did you go with in order to make sure that your guild was heading on the right path?
Yeah. To be honest, I just put people on blast in front of everybody. That's the way I did it.
Yeah, there's a lot of backbiting in the top. This is what happens. People are bitching about each other. I would tell people to cut that shit out. But it happens in each guild. Some people didn't want to play with each other. Some people think certain people are better. The leader needs to know this. He needs to have the trust in that player. It's his decision why he's keeping them in the guild, why they're in the guild. It's got nothing to do with someone of your best members saying this guy is not playing very well. You just need to tell him to shut the fuck up. It's your decision. It's down to you at the end of the day to look at a person who's in your guild, regardless of what people are saying. You could see different things what other people don't, or you're judging a player in many other different ways to what they're just judging them at in that specific moment.
Yeah. There's always a group of trusted players that you have that you trust and can make the call basically identically to you. And those are the people that you'll generally rely on in a guild to analyze what just happened and how to improve upon it. I mean, I'm not just saying that those are the players that, they're omnipotent, they understand everything, but they are the ones that you trust in. And it's the same for every guild. Every guild leader will have a set specific group of people that they trust to make calls for them or to go through a fraps or whatever and basically say, look, this needs to improve, that needs to improve. It's not just the guild leader doing it. There's a group doing it as well. But the problem is, if you get everyone involved in that, then it's basically the too many cooks problem again. Everyone is looking at their own little niche and their own little issue that they have and just bearing down on it too much. Whereas as a guild leader and as a raid leader, you actually need to look top down. You can't look at it from one side or another side or from the front or the back. It needs to be top down. You need to look at absolutely every aspect and how each of them interact. And so many people can't do it. It's unbelievable how few people can do it. And that's
there's a lot
why
of fucking juggling for sure.
Yeah, that's why doing it in private is better, because you get too many people that just can't do it. They don't understand how to do it, and they focus on one part. They sink their teeth in, they put their feet in the ground, and they're stubborn as shit. They basically won't move because they feel they are right, when in actual fact they're not looking at it from the right perspective.
Well, that's our goal as a raid leader, to actually see all of that and just take the most of everything they say, because they say it for a reason and not just to piss you off. At least my players do that, and I believe in them, and that's why I sit down and think with all of them.
You've got way too fluffy, Enigma. Way too fluffy.
Maybe I did, but it's working so far.
Is that what GVG's turned into now? Being fluffy as shit and being as nice as you possibly can to every member?
Like I said before, about 10 minutes ago, that's the problem now with the people you're recruiting. Like, you're taking people from all guilds and you're recycling people. That's just the way it is. And some of these people are not like original people in your guild. So you've got to kind of tread on eggshells. Like, you might have one of the best thieves left playing or one of the best mesmers, and you don't want to piss him off, because that would completely take away a lot of strength from your guild. If you were to say he did something wrong, you don't want to piss him off because they were the best people that's left.
Doesn't that just generally go against improving then? I mean, that just kind of completely defeats the point.
Well, it does, but they're the best people that's playing. Because there's very few good people in that position now.
That's kind of shitty.
We used to have Dodge, Shit, and Indigo or whatever. Now it's just train
I don't think that's true. I think that people are gravitating to guilds that they find that have the leadership that they like. It doesn't necessarily mean that there's less good players. It just means that it's different.
A lot of the guilds are just stacking.
Everyone needs to be on the same wavelength. If you're going, obviously, we're talking about new guilds starting GPG here. This is what the whole thing's about. Then everyone needs to. The leader needs to know what he wants out of making the guild. He needs to have a goal, and then everyone needs to be on board with that goal. And then you're trying to find the people you're trying to recruit. You're trying to find as close as possible to that goal and the best people you can find. If you want to have a successful guild, if you're starting from fresh.
Yep, makes sense.
Okay. All right. So just it's getting pretty late. We're almost at the 2-hour mark. So we're gonna end the prepared questions portion of the workshop, and we're gonna move on to some player questions before we wrap it up for the night.
Wrap it up. I'm here all night, motherfuckers. Yeah.
You can certainly talk.
It's only like fucking 6 or 7 of your time.
Oh yeah, he can talk, all right. Yeah, he can
Anyway, you
definitely
got me
fucking
fucking
talk.
spammed.
So can you?
Spamming me. I might as well come and make the most of it.
Okay, so this question comes from Gixor. If you notice someone specifically isn't performing to your standards, what do you do about it?
You call them out, tell them you try to work with them, especially since it's hard to recruit people. You do basically pull them aside and say, all right, hey, here's what you're doing wrong. Here's what you need to do. Show them, like, if you have some other, like if it's a guardian, if you have videos of one of your other guardians that's doing really well, show them videos of that, what they're doing, and then tell them this is what you need to start doing, and then just keep up with them. And if they give them a couple weeks, like this is why a lot of the guilds, the GVG guilds, did trial periods where they would like assess people's skills, and if they didn't meet up, like if they didn't see the potential there or anything, by the end they would just kick them. So you basically lay down the law. If you don't improve after we talk to you about this, you're basically gone. Sucks to be you.
But how do you reconcile with the fact that a lot of T1 guilds have long established memberships? They've been playing together for a long time, and they don't want to necessarily kick people just because they start interest in GVGs. How do you reconcile that?
If it's not, if they've been playing together for quite some time, then they should be able to know each. It depends on what they've been doing. If they've been real casual, then they won't be interested in GVGs at all, so they won't even bother to try to do GVGs. But if you have players who are interested in GVGs and that are long-standing members, if they care enough, they'll work hard to get better. It's not that hard to get good at being a melee player. You just literally follow the pen, dodge, and press all your buttons. It's not that hard if you're willing to put in the effort to get better. So especially if you're a long-standing member, then they should have no problem following their commander because they've been with them for quite some time, so they know their habits.
I wouldn't necessarily agree with it's not hard to be a melee player.
It's
easier.
It's not hard to be mediocre at melee.
If everyone stays with him and knows, can read the leader is the best way to describe it. And depending how well the leader leads.
Sacrx is gonna just spit his coffee out or wherever now, but when I'm leading, I know for a fact that the first person that is going to basically hammer stun where I want them to, without me even calling it, Jackie's there. He's basically in front of me on someone's face already. He knows where I'm going, and so do a couple of my other melees when we were playing.
Oh, definitely.
These players. Yeah, basically, and that's all you'd hear, and you'd hear his voice, and then you knew that he's got it. So then you focus down on that part, and then you move. But basically, talking about players and longevity and people quitting and people not having the players and whatnot. If you've got someone that's not performing at the standard that you want, and you want to improve them, you call them out. You tell them, look, you're not doing this right. You're not doing that right. You need to improve here. You need to improve there. Again, it comes back to that individual, whether they want to improve or not, whether they want to be an arrogant arse or stubborn and basically say, no, you're wrong, whatever. But if they do want to improve, take them back to basics. Go stick them again a 1v1. It's something that in VoTF we used to do with our Guardians. We used to basically tell our Guardians, if you couldn't survive for X amount of time up against an engineer, you weren't in the GVG. If you couldn't basically cleanse and cycle as much as you possibly can, basically use your empower with your stabilities and whatnot. So you basically got a full empower off, blah blah blah. I mean, you had no right to be in the GVG.
That's why you were failing, man. That's a load of shit. One skills, it means fuck all. Like, you got to play as a team.
No, but that's basically taking them back to basics. If they can't get that, then what fucking hope do they have?
Like, you know who your best players are, because they're going to be playing with you for quite a while. And it's like when people go on about saying GVG guilds, it's not just GVG guilds. You're doing World v World 95% of the time. You're just setting yourself up every time you go out in World v World to fight as many people as you can, and setting it up the same as if you were doing a GVG. But
if we're talking about new entries into the GVG realm or whatever, which is what this is supposed to be about, that's what you need to do. If they're not amazing players, then you do need to take them back to the very beginning and start training them up from there. If they don't understand the core fundamental problem that they're having, if they don't understand how their class is meant to be played, then you've got major issues. If you want to put the time and effort into them, then train them, build them up from there. If you don't want to, get rid of them.
There's also the other element of the thing when you're trying to recruit new people. There's some people that came from older games that played more small scale in like Age of Camelot or Warhammer, and played the scenarios and scenario teams, and then know more interactive on a smaller scale level, and then taking that to large scale. But there's some people that play Guild Wars 2 that it's the first type of game they've ever played, like a World v World situation, so they're not really so good in like individual skill level, because they've been bred just on the large scale mentality World v World, and it's hard to find some of the old players. Like, they're the ones you want to take, really, the ones that are the small scale focused players, or the people that have played older games in like 8-man or 6-man or teams of 20, rather than just taking a person that only like runs with the blob and spams one or does this and that because he's only ever done that, or taking keeps or stuff like that. Like, I suppose it'll be very hard to find people now in terms of the quality that you look for.
Alright, so
that's why a lot of the guilds stay together. The core you were talking about before, the core of the guilds don't really change much. And then when you start losing your core, you kind of losing your guild. Really, there's really no point then. If most of your core stop, you're just going to be a completely different game. I mean, a completely different guild, and a lot of your quality of your guild's going to go. That's why a lot of the guilds that are probably still playing, the best guilds have basically got a lot of the core from what the old people that originally played. Like, I think like Lagan now got a lot of like DF and some VoTF and some 7th. And it's the people who've got the most of each of the best skills what were before are the ones that are winning now, because they've played the longest. They know the tactics of all the guilds. There's a lot of the drama that is being created with them guilds. Like, each people share the tactics from the guilds that they've been in, and they'd like make one kind of new setup combined with all the old people.
Alright, so we're gonna move on to a few more questions. So this one's gonna be more directed towards the NA experts on the panel. So I know a few of you have experienced transitioning your guild. This question comes from I Play Thief. How does one make the change from a PPT Zerg guild to one that is, GVG focused, which is kind of what this workshop's about? How about Jericho? Can you talk about what you did as Ag's guild leader to transition your guild from one that became, arguably one of the best GVG guilds in NA?
From PPT?
Yeah, like how did you change your guild from PPT to GVG?
Do you ever do PPT?
We
Yeah,
kicked out.
You filthy arrow card user. Get on that arrow card.
We kicked out 90% of the roster, and then we just started. Mainly, we started open fielding. We didn't really start GVGing because there was nobody to GVG in the beginning. But we just did open field and try to take on as much people as we can with, only a group of like 30 at the time, I think it was.
Step 1 is get off Yak's Bend.
I think
first
a lot of
skill...
the US skills changed though when we came over, because I remember listening to that podcast with KNT and who was that in other guilds. A lot of the guilds started going more focused on the VG and cutting people back and getting their best teams going. After we came over, I believe, helped a bit. I think
I
help
get
make people make the transition a bit.
Gismor, you wanna?
BTW?
Sorry, what was that, mate?
The second trip or the first one?
No, the first one. After that, people started to be more not really asked with the PPT, and then it started changing. It's only the problem that it's taken so long to change it over.
No, I think it was from the second trip, because in the first trip they started and then they all stopped again. Like Raw Noodles went back to PPT and a bunch of other shit as well.
No, people,
There was
that's
only
the
like
whole
3
thing.
guilds.
Everybody makes definitions about the guilds and what they're doing, like are you a GVG guild, are you a World v World guild? Like, it was all the same. Just people took more focus on certain things. So like for you guys, you might have been always on the TeamSpeaks coordinating with the points per tick, going here, going there, working with the team, rather than going out to just look at killing people, which is kind of the change what I saw happen.
Gismor, you want to talk more about changing your guild's mindset into something that's competitive and possibly a contender in the GVG scene?
The original guild I was in was Last Words. It's pretty much, it's non-existent now, but it was back on Crystal Desert. It was like a huge 60, 70 man a night PPT guild, and once I became guild leader in that guild, I tried moving. Once I started, like I said, watching Aggression and Red Guard and VoTF videos, started wanting to do more of that shit and just go play for fights and whatnot. It became real hard to get people who were very casual players into a similar mindset of wanting to, like not necessarily GVG, but Zerg bust and just play for fights versus just go around capping shit. So what I did was I formed up a new guild, and it came down to just I recruited some people with similar mindsets of, yeah, we want to play for fights and we want to play to win. We don't want to play, for the tick. So that's what you have to do, is make sure that everybody's on the same page. But when it comes down to having people in your guild who are like long-standing members, like a larger guild that has long-standing members that don't really want to GVG and whatnot, it's just simple of just don't have them on your GVG team. Just have every now and then have a night where it's, all right, we're just raiding with just our GVG team tonight, or we have just a scrim tonight, or whatever, and it might get people that weren't interested at first more interested in it, because they will see that, hey, we're getting excluded because the guild has another mindset on them. I mean, guilds, like larger guilds, have to play for PPT sometimes, but there's nothing stopping them from doing some more GVG and stuff.
Okay. Indy, do you have anything to add to that question?
No, I think we should move on to the next one. Keep things moving.
That's fine. So this question comes from Eris. So this is for everyone. How does one stay up to date with, the current meta without being super experienced? That's his question.
Just watch
Should be able to answer
without
this one.
being experienced. If you're not experienced, then you're not being exposed to what's going on, and then you're not going to keep up. There's really no way to keep up with the current meta without being like wrapped up in it.
In my opinion,
best way is just
there's
to
no
get out
current
there.
meta, and every guild should create their own meta. You can run anything you'd like, and you can create your own thing. So there's no current meta, there's just guild setting the meta. Just like TA set up the 2 DPS warriors, and just has aggression after them, and NS.
No, TA didn't set it that up.
Well, I've never seen a DPS warrior before, so
You never
I'm
seen
pretty
DPS
sure.
warriors before?
No.
The fucking noise that run, because we fucking run out when we came back. It was the best way. What was it? But no, you want to get out there. You want to see what the crack is, and then you want to, if you've got the strength of your guild and everyone's doing what they're doing, if you're still losing the battle, then you're not doing something right. You need to look at people's specs, what they're using, are the enemy using something like really fucking like cheesy, what people have started to use. Check that out. If it works, adapt to win, basically. Adapt or die is the best way to describe it. You gotta run what's working.
So we should reroll the condition, all of us.
Yeah, everyone plus condition.
20
warriors, 20 guardians.
Guilds should set up their own pool. That's it. That's all I'm saying. You can run 4 DPS warriors, and you never know, it might work out for you. It's just the way the guild plays. And then if you're successful with it, well, people will just follow what you've done. Pretty much, that's it.
Yeah, you'll be looking. I mean, if I look over the time when we played, I took a lot of stuff from what people used and bent the tactics to what some people were using. Like for instance, when we used to fight the Origin, was it Origin? Is Origin online? They used to use a lot of sanctuaries or whatever back in the day, and we swapped the traded sanctuaries, using that to break people up. Trying to think what else, what other guilds we took some stuff from. You definitely
just think outside of the box.
What if you see something new? You're thinking, yeah, we'll take that. We'll use this. We'll use that. But generally, you want to have your guild set up, like you said, to whatever you feel is best for your guild. What works best for how you play with your guild, or what does your driver play like?
For new guilds, I would just advise go full tank. For example, if you're a newcomer. If you guys are newcomers, the current meta is like this. Current meta. I'm sorry, I'm using this. Like, you can tank up some guy that's really bad, and he can do better than what a good, let's say, a good Shoutier warrior that's with a lot of Zerker. Like, tanky is the way to go right now. So by all means, you should tank up if you're like a mediocre or a bad player. If you're a new guild, just tank up. And at the start, as you progress, you'll see that you can start adapting to more Zerky and more DPS oriented builds. So you can go really offensive, and you can make your own meta by just going completely Zerky.
You don't need to go over the critical mass. You need to find that critical mass. So if you run 20-25 guys, critical mass, can you survive versus a Zerg and also do enough damage? It's all about coordinated spike bursts. If you can have everybody tanky as hell, and if everyone coordinates right, you can kill people just by having the coordination on the 5 target limit, and everyone doing what they're meant to be doing.
The same thing can be said about being Glacier, though. If you can keep moving fast enough and keep dodging damage, then you can run Glacier, and just keep just moving faster and keep hitting faster.
Depends versus a good guild and how the playing is versus. I suppose I definitely didn't agree with that. There's plenty of people that tried to run Squish.
I do agree with that.
You definitely can do it.
You can definitely do it. If you're good players, you can definitely do it. I know it for a fact, because I can see it happening right now as it is. So you definitely can do it.
Look, Air's updated a question. He meant to ask without doing theory crafting on his own from scratch. Like, for being new to the meta, you almost had to pick an emulation point. Either you sort of base your guidelines off another guild, like most of NA base their stuff off of EU because they just did it first, and then once everybody figured out how to play it, then NA started developing their own metagame.
I wasn't talking about RG, by the way. I was talking about in general. Someone was saying that everyone should run tanky if you started out. What we did was you want to have balanced builds. You want to have nice balanced builds.
Yeah, but you guys
so that
had
you can
good
do
players.
High damage, and you can also survive.
You don't have to.
We weren't full tank. I was tank, obviously running.
You can do everyone.
I was tanky running, obviously being in the leader position. Not really asked about
That's
DPS.
not necessary as well.
But it depends really. I mean, no, I wouldn't agree with that for sure. Because if the leader guy's down, you're fucking toast.
Well, as a guardian, you shouldn't get toasted. Even if you get focused by 2 DPS warriors, if you're a good player, then you don't need to be tanky.
Well, I hardly ever died, so what wasn't an issue?
I don't think DPS warriors should even have a spot in current meta. If your Necros act appropriately, and you put the right amount of pressure on the enemy melee train, then their DPS warriors don't have anywhere to hide.
True.
Okay. So we're gonna move on to a few more questions. So this question comes from Edge XL. I'm just gonna read part of the question. Drivers, what do you do to practice? If you practice at all, and then do you have any drills that you guys can suggest for yourself or your guild?
Practice movement, just movement and Heart of the Mist or wherever, just running around with your melee train and everybody just staying as compact as possible. I'm practicing leaps, so when everybody leaps at the same time is the big ones that I can think of.
Jericho suggests this, but basically take your casters and melee into PvP and put them 10 on 10. Just have your casters just dump shit all over your melee, and then they need to learn to move around and survive in it. Learn how to dodge roll, learn how to squeeze every bit of heals out of your guardians and warriors. Like that'll really, really bring forth all the little things in the play.
Press 1.
Jericho, you have anything to add to that?
What was that question again?
Jesus, Jericho.
Yeah.
Worst
How do you
attention span.
practice driving, if you practice at all, and are there any drills that you suggest?
I don't know. I never really practiced driving. I just went into it, and I guess I got better, as I kept going on daily.
Yep.
But drills, I think mostly we just practice following and focusing damage together as a melee train, all in one spot. Like Sacrx was saying, if you hit the same 5 people, then those same 5 people are gonna die. That's all we really did, to try to focus all damage, even caster damage included. It wasn't just melee damage alone. We try to focus everybody's damage together in one spot.
You want to go from the outside in, so you didn't want to have the elementalists doing a meteor shower or a lava font right over everyone in the center. They need to be hitting in front of where you drive Riz on that specific spot, so that the lava font or meteor shower is just covering that side of it. So you're going from the outside in, so you're hitting the same 5 targets with every bit of damage, not just your melee train.
You can't really train to be a good driver. I guess, stupid as it sounds, it comes naturally. You have to be a vocal person and just very situationally aware, and then as you go along and start doing fights and whatnot, you progressively get better and better and better. But you can't be like a guy who says 3 words every fight and expect to be the best driver. You have to be screaming random shit.
No, you've got to know the game. You've got to read the situation. You've got to have that sixth sense. There's definitely better drivers for sure. I mean, that's obvious. You need to know what to do, when to go. When I mean reading the battle, you need to know when to go, when's good to go and put aggression on them, and when's to fall back for a regroup. When to keep the pressure on, when to go off.
Okay. So we're gonna move on. This is from Papa Berry from AESS. This is specifically for Jericho. What is an endurance test, and how do you go about doing one?
An endurance test usually involves fighting more than one guild at the same time. For example, we fought, I think there was one in EB where we were fighting NS, EK, EP, ARC, and it was basically just, without break, keep going over and over and over, just back to back, and endurance test is what we called it, is when we haven't wiped yet and we're still going for more than 20 minutes. And that's what we called endurance test, pretty much. How long can we go before we finally wipe?
Okay. So next question, it comes from Cyrus, and this is for Indy. One of the issues for a new guild that is starting to GVG is that they lose every round and the players get discouraged quickly. How do you overcome that?
Well, I don't know. I haven't been in that situation really, but it's you've got to be looking to improve, seeing what you did wrong, and so if you're losing all the time from the start, you've got to you've got to I just don't really. Yeah, the question's been answered earlier. Thanks. So I'm just reading chat. But I don't really know. It's tough. I guess if you're starting up and you're losing all the time, it's because the most exciting part of GVG, I guess, is part of it's the winning. So if you're losing from the beginning, Like you've just got to you've got to try and keep everyone interested. Like and try and like when you're losing, you've got to come up with like try and let people know why you lost. Or try and work out why you lost, and then I think you can keep people interested if they see that you understand why you lost. And yeah.
I think people need to be like they need to look at their guild in general. Like, are we ready to go for a GVG? If you're starting out, you mainly want to be out in the open world all the time. And if you can kill more than your own guild, if you can kill 40 or 50 guys who are pretty decent, like not random, just a few guilds at a time. If you can kill half a blob, then go for it, because you're only going to get more practice in that situation. But if you're struggling with even numbers versus a Zerg or whatever in the open, then you should really understand that you're not really going to be the best GVG guild yet, until you get everything sorted to be better in actual versus the Zergs or in open OVR. Not in a fixed 20v20 or 15v15. So I would advise getting better in actual World v World and just going out the same mindset as if you're going to do a GVG and then trying to kill as many people as possible. Then if you manage that and you do pretty good, then I would say then do a GVG, then look who's around, who's like quality that you're good or high quality, then go for it. Then do a GVG and see how it goes, and then just say, yeah, we did good, we did bad, watch the replays, how we can do better, and then just go from there. Don't get too asked about if you lose. And also you've got to try and find that drive to want to be better, to get people in the mindset of that, especially if you're starting new, because you're going to have some struggles for sure, trying to get, if you want to be like one of the best guilds left, or trying to get to that position.
So this will be the last question before we wrap it up for the evening. So this question comes from Filber from Mykoa. This is for everyone. What do you think is the most valuable trait you look for in a new recruit for a GVG guild? So what is the most valuable trait that you look for when you're recruiting someone?
Motivation, desire to get better, and able to take criticism.
Someone who can mold well with the team and the guild, is able and willing to work with everybody to improve both themselves and the guild as a whole.
Gismor?
Just the determination to succeed, similar mindset with what your values are in your guild, and yeah, them not being shit.
Indy?
Yeah, it's they need to want to be the best, basically. That's like people who want to be the best, they'll put in the effort, because you need to, to improve, you have to put in time outside of raid. You need people who are willing to put time outside of raid. The big thing for improving, you can't just improve by purely turning up to raid. Like you will, that's not true. Like you will improve if you just turn up to raid, but you'll never, get as good as you can be if you're not putting the time outside of raid.
Jericho?
I primarily look for people that aren't too emotional. That don't, cry when you fucking call them out for getting one pushed, or or somebody just randomly calls them a faggot, jokingly around. There's actually people that get offended by that shit. Anybody who doesn't have thick skin, people we don't want usually. And then after that comes like, does he lack common sense? Is he a decent player? Is this guy a fucking retard? Just shit like that.
Okay. And Diviniya?
Well, it's sort of already answered, but it's just people who are willing to work to be the best and improve the guild.
Okay. All right, so that wraps it up for the participant question portion.
I would also just put in there, I'd say activity as well, on what everyone said already. How active is the person playing?
That's a big one.
Okay. Definitely.
I have one announcement to make before you wrap it up, can I?
Sure.
Okay, so lag is challenging absolutely every guild there is on NA, both EU. On NA, if like we would like to come and fight every one of your guilds. Same goes for you if guilds would like to GVG us. If that ever happens, we're always open. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say. Sorry, thank you.
Okay, so yeah, that being said, thank you everyone for coming today. We hope that everyone got at least a little something out of our workshop today. I'm sure everyone on the expert panel would be willing to talk to you privately if you have any questions for them. You can contact them in game or anything. We'll definitely be trying to set this this kind of workshop thing in the future. Hopefully this isn't the only one that we have, and possibly in different formats. So is there anyone on the expert panel that has any closing comments they want to make before we call it an evening?
I have a question.
Okay.
Alright. So, who is better? People will say different stories. Is it Redguard or is it VoTF?
Oh, no, don't break that up. No, please. I don't want to stay here till 5 a.m. Fuck that.
Really,
Please,
just
no.
look at the. I mean, come on. Scores you didn't even need to fucking ask.
No. Just don't fucking do that, please.
I think we're
This
done
is
here.
so much.
well,
Please, just don't do that, man.
This is not the venue for.
Yes.
This is for everyone to, look to get some advice and improve. This is not really the venue for, who's
Yeah,
better
I mean,
or whatever.
saying,
If you want to do that, you can talk on the forums, whatever you want. But let's try to keep that thing away from what we're trying to do.
No, VOTF was a really good guild, that's all I'll say. Simple as that, end of discussion.
The Red God were terrible, but I mean, we put up with them, so.
Yeah, 16-0.
Anyone else have any closing comments before we call it an evening?
Jericho, no new blessings for you to give us?
Keep it humble.
No, just like to say, even though I'm not playing on and that, and obviously looking at new games, I hope everyone's finds fun in still playing Guild Wars 2. That's why I came. Even though GVG was started a long time ago, hopefully people can come around to GVG, keep playing it, have fun in Guild Wars 2. If you're not looking at the games, then trying to get the most out of the game, really, that's still remaining. And hopefully guilds will continue to remain and get the best out of the game, really. But
keep the fight up against ArenaNet as well, because we know that they aren't exactly all
but I mean,
thrilled with the idea
we
of
didn't
guild
even
v
need to
guild.
fucking go there, really. They're fucking retarded. They had so much potential to make this game awesome, and they fucked it up. And they're still on the SPVP bullshit with the blooming tournament of the bloody mists or whatever, and all this promoting blooming. Like what? 150
World Star
guys
is
playing
amazing.
150 guys playing SPVP, and they care more about them. There isn't anyone that's actually working on the World v World team for fucking about a year now. They don't actually have anyone who is actually part of the World v World team. I still
the World v World team was a myth.
Month or whatever. I feel sorry for the people that put posts on the fucking World v World fucking section asking.
Did they sacrifice Devon Carver then?
He never existed.
I mean, you know that when what they made Devon Carver go to, he was using some site. What was it? MMO, some random MMO site. There was like interviews and things like that. He wasn't even using the main site. It's because he didn't want to take any of the flack from the people on the forum. They just didn't give a shit, man. Focus was always to try and make it into an esport for the SPVP from day one, and that's.
Well, it's all real, not really material to what's going on tonight, right?
Yeah, for sure. I'm just saying.
We're moving on.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for attending this thing.
Very much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
A pleasure, man.